Hey y'all, it's Maritime in America again, a podcast where we're charting America's offshore stories. It's the only podcast that highlights mariners' perspectives on issues facing the offshore community and the greater U.S. maritime community. I'm your host, Aaron Smith of the Offshore Marine Service Association. Each Friday, I'll bring you the Offshore Briefing, a quick rundown of the week's notable developments, updates, and news you need to know in the offshore space. In addition, we'll feature a special guest from the maritime world, bringing a mariner's voice and real-world perspectives straight to the show. Joining me are my co-hosts, Ashley and Angel, where we'll strengthen the maritime American mariner's voice by diving into the people, policies, and powerful currents shaping the U.S. maritime community. Whether you're on deck or at your desk, we're glad you're here.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to Maritime in America. And Dan, welcome to the show. I kind of knew you before I knew you because I knew your story and what happened through one of our member companies. So it's so great to meet you in person. But, for the audience, introduce yourself to everyone.
My name is Dan. Yeah, I'm from Colorado. I started with a crew boat company called Boat Service of Galveston. They ran some, I think we had 5 crew boats at the time, and they're no longer operating in the Gulf, but I started with them as a deckhand, worked with them for a year or so before I got my 100-ton captain's license. Before I worked there, I was in Alaska charter fishing salmon and halibut and had a 25-ton captain's license from that, which wasn't big enough to use in the Gulf. So I had to work as a deckhand for about a year before I could start running their 100-ton boats. Yeah, so that's how I got into it. I worked with them for, yeah.
It's such a dumb process there that, you're a captain at 25 tons.
Right.
And then you move up to 100 tons, but you got to go back to being a deckhand because that doesn't transfer over. Let's just start there about the absurdity of that. And then if you go up again, you got to do the same thing. So I'm sorry, but I understand why there's those breaks, but it pushes good people out of the
you're
industry.
Right. I totally agree
with
you. I think
so I'm sorry to interrupt, but go ahead,
barriers
Dan.
to entry in this industry. So, yeah, right. I think they could do a lot to really
unnecessary,
and it's getting
barriers.
worse. That's if I had one concern, it would be to let people know that it's in government's nature to grow. It is, and the Coast Guard is definitely different. Neither is the IMO, with SDCW. That's actually the United Nations. I'm going off on a tangent, whatever, but yeah.
No, we love a good tangent. Believe me, it's all we do.
Hey, and you're preaching to the choir here, yeah. And
my job in these podcasts are to keep Aaron
Right.
in line because he will go off on a nerd tangent way too far. And so Angel and I are here to reel him in. Hey, I have a quick question before we proceed. So the company that you started with that no longer exists, what did that company turn into?
Now they still run party fishing boats in Galveston. And they have been around for a long time, but they just over the last downturn they just didn't continue to operate after that.
Cool. And that's funny. Stacey Stanley was telling us her company started off in the party fishing industry.
Yeah,
I was going to say that sounds
into the crew
familiar.
boats.
So,
Yeah, that's so
yeah,
cool.
watched it.
So is that how you got to them? Because I know from your background you were a fishing guide. Talk about a dream career for me, but you were a fishing guide.
That would require you to catch the fish, Aaron.
Oh, hey. Yeah, thank you. So you were a fishing guide, and then I've maintained for a while that I think a lot of our industry exists solely to support people's fishing habits. So is that how you got, is that what got you interested into this industry, or how did you find this industry?
Yeah.
Because it's great to have another Coloradan on this podcast. I do want to touch on that.
I know y'all should have prefaced that.
So I had been in Alaska.
Dan, you're in.
I'd been in Alaska,
Collins.
and I was a fly fishing guide initially, just doing fly fishing stuff. But the fly shop I worked for, his dad had a charter fishing business, and so I went out and did that with him one time, and I was like, oh, I love this. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And so that's I started doing that, but in the wintertime, I mean, there's nothing. But I went down, I mean, in Alaska as far as charter fishing, that it shuts off. It's a seasonal thing. But we my dad is from Houston, and I went down to help my grandmother out, and her neighbor was like, "Oh, you have a captain's license? Like, they're in demand here." And I'm like,
Okay.
he drove me and we taught. That's how I got into it. It was just, I didn't even know it existed. And so it just was by chance that I started working on the Gulf.
Well, and I did want to, not only just to hype that Fort Collins is one of the best communities in the world, but I do want to highlight that because there is a perception that to work in the offshore industry, that it's only Cajuns or it's only those people from below I-10 or, only people from the Gulf Coast that are working in our industry. And that's not true. So I do think that it is interesting that, you live in Fort Collins. I wish I could figure out a way to live in Fort Collins and, commute down to the industry. So tell everyone about your commute to work then,
I just fly, I don't want to plug them. Maybe I should. I fly Southwest Airlines. I have for years, and I can count on them. I can count on them to get me here.
Southwest.
I mean, to work.
Southwest family.
Without, I have never had an issue getting back to work, except for this year when there was the snowstorm.
And knock on wood. But yeah, you're right.
The 8 inches of snowstorm,
not in
Orleans,
Colorado.
That was
the snowstorm here.
Getting back to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Ashley laughed because our sidewalk in New Orleans was the only one that was shoveled within a day of the snow because, well, I'm going to do what you're going to do from Colorado. So yeah, exactly. The look on your face is exactly why I did. It's like, yeah, you shovel your walk. Come on, don't be an idiot.
But everyone laughed at us. And they're like, why are you doing that? And I was like, you'll find out later. Right. But the joke
when
is...
everyone else was turned to ice, I look like the smart one.
But it didn't turn to ice because it was 80 degrees the next day.
Yeah. So that aside, I think it's great. And I think that's something that we should be, again, because I want to talk about, and I know you have a horrible backstory about trying to stay in this industry, but you have a great, poster child style story about trying to stay in this industry. And we do need to do a better job of not only attracting the people that live in, Lafourche Parish or Lafayette Parish or in, Hancock County, Mississippi. We need to do jobs of attracting great people in Larimer County, Colorado to show what a great industry this is and what a great career this can be. So I did want to highlight you about that, just that, I'm not a golf. Yeah, I luckily was able to find a way, but, that wasn't natural. It was just by chance. So I think that is important, and that's a cool story that we should show.
In 2013, I made the jump from 100 ton to 500 ton, that's a really involved process. There's a lot of classes. It's very expensive to make that jump, and the testing is completely different. I've tested with the Coast Guard for 100 ton at the REC in Toledo, Ohio. I've tested with the Coast Guard, I think 6 times at the regional exam center. And so it's an involved process. It's expensive. It's very expensive. Like you're going to be in a hotel for a week. You're not going to be at work. You're going to be away from your family while you're testing, unless you live in these cities that have the regional exam center. So yeah, it's a difficult process, but going to 500 ton, that was very time consuming, very expensive. And, at that point I started working for L&M Boat Truck Rentals, had a friend help me, a friend that worked there, and they got me on, and it's just a really great company. It's like a family company, and, they're great people.
Oh,
Oh, they're the best.
It's
Dan, how much, well, I know you said that all the courses were expensive. Was that
I
like
paid
directly
directly out
out
of
of
pocket.
pocket or
Yeah,
were there loans or
I've never taken a
anything?
loan for.
most of the time you do. Yeah. And that's it's again, we're putting up artificial barriers that
Yeah,
aren't making better mariners or making a safer industry. We're just making barriers to
it's
make
true.
barriers. And the result is we push good people out of the industry. And yeah, to move, we've talked numerous times and, I, I think maybe we should change the name of the
Right,
podcast from, Maritime in America to the American Hosspipe, because we talk about, but that is such an
right,
American and intrinsically American concept of
right.
work your way from the bottom. You put in the work, you upgrade, and you work your way up. But then we've decided, okay, yeah, you work your way
Wait.
up if you pay all this money and take all these arbitrary
So yeah,
tests. That doesn't make any sense. That's not the American dream.
And so say that, I'm sorry, I was going to say the testing is $500, right? I'm just arbitrarily picking a number to get to that license. Does that license, you need to make what, to make it in my head, I'd be like, well, I want to make 3 times what I'm spending to take the exam. So I would want to pay what, $1,500 based on that.
there is a massive pay jump between 100 and 500 ton. So once you get the license, you will
Yes.
recover your money pretty quickly. That's true. But if you don't mind, I'd like to go
Yeah.
back to a
But you
point you
have to.
just made, and that's the barriers to entry. And there's a timeline. It's getting worse, and there's a timeline. Like
Mhm.
so, I think it was I think
Yep.
it was 2007 they started the TWIC card, which was okay. So that was kind of beneficial. Like that was good for us.
Yep.
It was anyone who was wanted by the law or had a a sketchy background. Right.
Any American, first of
Right.
all.
No,
Foreigners don't have to
you're
have a
right.
TWIC card,
Yeah,
even if they're
it's
doing the same thing as you.
it's
But I'll get off that
exclusive
high
for
horse.
Americans. But anyway, so that kind of weeded out some people.
Mhm.
And then in 2014 they adopted the STCW, which is the United Nations IMO, and that is where everything took
Yep.
off. The regulations on steroids, like we're talking about additional costs to operators to
Yes.
adhere to their standards. Yeah. So the STCW is costly for the operators. For the mariners, there's an increase in scope and classes. Like I'm not fully ST. I have to take an additional $20,000 worth of classes to become STCW compliant with my current license right now. Right now, I can tell you the
Yeah.
classes.
Oh my gosh.
These did not exist just 5 years ago, but it's advanced stability, ship handling, which is $5,000 just for the class, search and rescue, and a management of medical care. Those didn't even exist 5 years ago.
Ugh.
So it doesn't stop. They don't know how to stop. You know what I mean?
And here's the thing. STCW is an international license.
Right.
I was just about
It's
to
for
say.
international commerce. I would venture a guess, and I would put all of the money in my pocket against everyone's money on this call, that the vessels you've
Right.
been on have never sailed internationally. So why do you have to get an STCW license if you're not sailing international? Why have we have a national license? If
Mhm.
you're working in U.S. waters and national waters, why should you have to get an?
Well,
That doesn't
I'll
make
tell
any
you
sense.
why.
Like,
And
let's
the
stop
reason why
making
is
dumb
that
rules.
somebody along the line handed our sovereignty over to the IMO. So
Yep.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Mhm.
And so, look, those are fine rules for international commerce. Keep them there. They can be there. Great. Cool. But when you're working in our waters, let's abide by our rules. And I would extend that not just STCW. I'm going to now just
Mhm.
quote a bunch of acronyms, but all these letters do mean something. But STCW, MARPOL,
Right. Yes.
would extend that to SOLAS even on some. And
Sure.
there are great parts of all of those, certainly, but we shouldn't have to follow all of them. And then also I would say, when we do adopt international
Right.
treaties, I don't know. It should be, when we do adopt them, let's be smart about it. Other nations don't have all of these STCW courses that we do. The
Right.
Coast Guard chose to meet STCW via courses. Now, you can look at who was at the table when those decisions were made. Training providers, I'm looking in your direction. Maybe that was, they were trying to feather their own nest there. But that's we should not only have training providers at the table when those decisions are made. That's fine. But we should also have mariners at those tables when these decisions are made. So say, no, advanced ship stability is not a useful course for me. I shouldn't have to take that. So I think I just got on 18 soapboxes there. My apologies. You're making some great points. I wanted to reiterate them. So, but I'm sorry.
But the point of this podcast is to bring to light Maritime in America and to talk to the mariners and figure out what's going on and so these conversations are exactly what we need.
Thank you.
So keep getting on your soapbox. It's the only time I'll let you.
So I totally agree with what you're saying. So, have you gotten above?
Yeah. So
are you still at
like
500
I said,
ton, or have you
I should tell you
advanced
the
again?
story. What happened was, in the last downturn, when things started, slowing down. Basically, I got laid off and went directly to a school and upgraded my license from 500 to 1,600 ton oceans. At a 500 ton near coastal, and went to 1,600 ton oceans. And I took ARPA, ECDIS, GMDSS, Celestial Navigation. What else? Human Element of Leadership and Management, which was the new STCW class at the time. And so that was the first one, like I said, now there's 5 more. And that was in 2016. I think that at the time, I think I spent about 30,000 in 2016 on those classes. I stayed in, I actually rented, short-term housing in Fort Lauderdale. And, yeah, it was very expensive. But, so this is where the story gets horrifying. So, I just separated from the Gulf. I had increased the scope of my license, and when I finished all of my classes at the school, they were so nice and offered to submit my application for me to raise my grade from 500 to 1,600 ton oceans. And it was nice. I had used a lady in New Orleans always to Holly Chetta. I don't know if you ever knew of it.
Mm-hmm.
I always used Holly because
everyone knows
she had a direct line to them and could get things done so quickly. Well, I made the mistake of not using her one time, and I paid for it. And basically what happened was, when they submitted the Coast Guard form to the Coast Guard, there's a box that says, do you intend to renew? And there's some debate on whether or not it should have come with the 5-year renewal date anyway. When I upgraded from 500 to 1,600 ton, basically it's like going and renewing your upgrading your driver's license, but not getting a new expiration date on it. That's what happened. The box wasn't checked. And so my license came back, and it was cool. I was holding it in my hand. It was this big 1,600 ton oceans license. I was very proud of it. I worked hard to get it. I paid a lot for it. There was an error on it. Actually, it was my birth city. And I actually sent the license back to the Coast Guard because of the error in the birth city. Well, they sent the license back to me, and basically, the oil field was very slow. I stuck it in my safe, basically, and started working as a real estate appraiser, just there, like I said, the oil field in the Gulf was hurting in 2016. Yeah. And so, I was
Yeah.
doing that. I
Oh,
kind of
I
had forgot
remember.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
I figured it was good for 5 years. What happened was it was issued. I have the license. I can show you. It was issued October 31st, in 2016, and expired in August of 2017. So it was sitting in my gun safe, and everything I had done was lost. When I found out that it had expired, I reached out to Holly immediately, and she was explained to me how bad this was, and I knew, thought there was a chance I may never see that license again. Um, we submitted a uh, a packet to the Coast Guard for an appeal to here's I'd like to stop and make a point right now. I had the sea time to renew my license. I could have done a regular renewal, had and
Right.
really that license should have come with 5 years, but there was a mistake. A mistake was made. And so
Right.
anyway,
Right.
I'm fine. I find out this license is no good. I call Holly. We start the process of an appeal to get my license back. We point out, look, there was a mistake. I didn't even make the mistake. I didn't catch the mistake. The Coast Guard said that they absolutely couldn't do that because I had not been doing drills. I hadn't been doing fire drills. I hadn't been doing the man overboard drills, and so that I would need to retest. But also, I still had this, like, if I had checked the box on this day that they're telling me that I had to do the fire drills or the man overboard drills, and therefore I couldn't have my license, if the box had been checked on that day, I could have renewed. I had the seat one. It just, there was a mistake. And then, I mean, they stuck it. We were met with no humanity. It was like we were talking, anyone who's dealt with the government has seen the government loop where they start looping on themselves. They're like, no, you can't do this because of this. You can't do this because of that. And in the meantime, I have a friend who had got his second DUI and had lost his driver's license and was a captain, and and nothing, had happened to him. But I couldn't be a captain because my box was not checked on my form. And, never mind the fact that it was a mistake. They make mistakes constantly. But I was definitely going to pay for mine. And that was a really ugly experience. Like I said, I feel like I was met with no humanity at all. These books that they made up, the apparent, they wanted to adhere to them. And so I was removed, and I didn't even I wasn't even an OS. I had to reapply for my merchant mariner's credential. I had to become an AB. I had to go do revalidation courses, but it was actually cheaper for me to go to the school in Biola Battery because they have free room and board. And I just went into the AB classes over again, had to pay for them for out of scratch. Again, I've gone from 1,600 ton oceans to nothing in a year and a half. And so I finally get my AB license back in 2019. Then I'm getting ready to come back, and COVID happens. So that I just step away and continue with the real estate appraisal, which I'm not enjoying. It's a massive amount of paperwork, and it wasn't something I liked. It was great to try it, and I was actually successful at it. I don't care for it. But anyway, so I just kind of put the AB ticket in my by the way, my AB ticket shows up with errors. They had made mistakes on license. So I have to send that back for, to correct the problems. Anyway, finally, and I think it's 2021 or 2022, I come back as an AB. And I work as an AB, you actually, okay, so I went to Schwest in 2021 because they had a school, and I thought that would be beneficial to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I went there. Yeah, I was never able
Great
to
school.
utilize their
Yeah.
school.
Good school. No, we work very closely with Gumbo and Benny. Yeah.
There we go. In 2022, I got my 200-ton master's near coastal license back. Actually, I got that pretty quickly after I got the sea time to legitimately get it. And then after, I think, 90 days of that, I reapplied for the 1,600-ton masters and got approved to test. And what it takes for me to pass the Coast Guard exam, and I've done it several times, is I have to go home and study for 6 weeks straight.
Yeah.
Treat it like a 9-to-5 job. Wake up, do a practice exam for rules of the road in the morning, and then just rotate through topics like this. I'll do stability this morning. I'll do terrestrial navigation this morning, and I'll just keep rotating through it and working on, practice exams. It's an involved process. It's expensive. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what the pass fail rates are on it, because it can't be good.
And look,
Right.
those practical
Well, so
exams, they're not free.
so I'm
either.
approved to test in 2023. Actually, it was 2024. I was I started my exam process in October of 2024. Well, just before that, the Coast Guard releases a form that if within the last 5 years your credentials have expired, it will give them back to you. Well, mine was just barely over that 5-year grace period.
That was a great conversation with Dan Hubble, and there's still so much more to cover. We'll have to wrap it up here for now, but stay tuned because part 2 of this interesting discussion will drop in just 2 weeks. You won't want to miss it.
That wraps up another episode of Maritime in America. We're proud to highlight the voices and stories that keep the American offshore industry strong. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, and remember, the course ahead is shaped by those who step up and steer it. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew. Tune in every Friday for your offshore briefing, and don't miss our next full episode, dropping soon with a very special guest, Mariner's Perspective. Catch you next time.